Welcome to the course Cloud Computing with Azure Fundamentals. After completing this course, you will be familiar with two major subjects, Cloud Core Concepts and Microsoft Azure Fundamentals. In the first module, Cloud Core Concepts, you will learn about common cloud computing services, benefits of cloud computing, and how to decide which cloud deployment model is best for you. In the second module, Azure Fundamentals, you will learn what Microsoft Azure is and how it relates to cloud computing, how to deploy a website using Azure App Service, learn how to scale up your website to give you more compute power, how to use Azure Cloud Shell to interact with your website. So let's move ahead and learn about our first module, Cloud Core Concepts, in the next chapter. When you use a smartphone, you go to the store, pay the specific price for that, and that new smartphone becomes yours. When you turn on your phone and it works for you. Here you don't have to worry about the smartphone's hardware used for manufacturing that smartphone, or you don't need to think about what software is installed inside that mobile phone. You just turn on the phone and start using it for all your mobile needs. Just like that, when you develop any application and deploy it for making it available for its users, you need to take care of all the environmental requirements. This becomes unnecessary obstacle for you while delivering applications to the users. Luckily, there is a solution to this problem, cloud computing. Cloud computing is renting resources like storage space or CPU cycle on another company's computers. You only pay for what you use. The company providing these services is referred to as a cloud provider. Some examples of providers are Microsoft, Amazon, and Google. The cloud provider is responsible for the physical hardware required to execute your work and for keeping it up to date. The computing services offered tend to vary by cloud provider. However, typically they include computing power, storage, networking, and analytics. Compute power such as Linux servers or web applications used for computation and processing tasks. Storage such as files and databases. Networking such as secure connections between the cloud provider and your company. Analytics such as visualizing telemetry and performance data. The goal of cloud computing is to make running a business easier and more efficient, whether it's a small startup or large enterprise. Every business is unique and has different needs. To meet those needs, cloud computing providers offer a wide range of services. You need to have a basic understanding of some of the services it provides. Let's briefly discuss the two most common services that all cloud providers offer, compute power and storage. When you send an email, book a reservation on the internet, pay a bill online, you are interacting with the cloud-based servers that are processing each request and returning a response. As a consumer, we are all dependent on the computing services provided by the various cloud providers that make up the internet. When you build solutions using cloud computing, you can choose how you can work to be done based on your resources and needs. For example, if you want to have more control and responsibility over maintenance, you could create a virtual machine or VM. A VM is an emulation of a computer, just like your desktop or laptop you are using now. Each virtual machine includes an operating system and hardware that appears to the user like a physical computer running Windows or Linux. You can then install whatever software you need to do the task you want to run in the cloud. The difference is that you don't have to buy any of the hardware or install the operating system. The cloud provider runs your virtual machine on a physical server in one of their data centers, often sharing that server with other virtual machines with the cloud. You can have a virtual machine ready to go in minutes at less cost than a physical computer. VMs are not the only computing choices. There are two other popular options, containers and serverless computing. Containers. Containers provide a consistent, isolated execution environment for applications. They are similar to VMs except they don't require a guest operating system. Instead, the application and all its dependencies is packaged into a container and then a standard runtime environment is used to execute the app. This allows the container to start up in just a few seconds because there is no operating system to boot and initialize. You only need the app to launch. The open source project Docker is one of the leading platforms for managing containers. Docker containers provide an efficient, lightweight approach to application deployment because they allow different components of the application to be deployed independently into different containers. Multiple containers can be run on a single machine, and containers can be moved between machines. The portability of container makes it easy for applications to be deployed in multiple environments, either on premise or in the cloud, often with no changes to the application. Is serverless computing. Serverless computing lets you run application code without creating, configuring, or maintaining a server. The core idea is that your application is broken into separate functions that run when triggered by some action. This is ideal for automated tasks. For example, you can build a serverless process that automatically sends an email configuration after a customer makes an online purchase. The serverless model differs from virtual machines and containers in that you only pay for the processing time used by each function as it executes. Virtual machines and containers are charged while they are running, even if the application on them are idle. This architecture doesn't work for every app, but when the app logic can be separated to independent units, you can test them separately, update them separately, and launch them in microseconds, making this approach the best and fastest option for deployment. Here is a diagram comparing the three compute approaches we have covered. Storage. Most devices and applications read and or write data. Here are some examples. Buying a movie ticket online, looking up the price of an online item, taking a picture, sending an email, leaving a voicemail. In all these cases, data is either read or written. The type of data and how it's stored can be different in each of these cases. Cloud providers typically offer services that can handle all of these types of data. For example, if you wanted to store text or a movie clip, you could use a file on disk. If you had a set of relationships such as an address book, you could take a more structured approach like using a database. The advantage to using cloud-based data storage is you can scale to meet your needs. If you find that you need more space to store your movie clips, you can pay a little more and add to your available space. In some cases, the storage can even expand and contract automatically, so you pay for exactly what you need at any given point in time. To summarize, every business has different needs and requirements. Cloud computing is flexible and cost efficient, which can be beneficial to every business, whether it's a small startup or a large enterprise. Cloud computing is not an all or nothing service approach. Companies can choose to use the cloud to store their data and execute logic as much or as little as necessary to fulfill their business requirements. Existing businesses might choose a gradual movement to save money on infrastructure and administration cost, referred to as a lift and shift, while a new company might start in the cloud. Let's learn some of the top benefits of cloud computing. It's cost effective. Cloud computing provides a pay as you go or consumption based pricing model. This consumption based model brings with it many benefits, including no upfront infrastructure cost, no need to purchase and manage costly infrastructure that you may not use to its fullest, the ability to pay for additional resources only when they are needed, the ability to stop paying for resources that are no longer needed. This also allows for better cost prediction. Prices for individual resources and services are provided so you can predict how much you will spend in a given billing period based on your expected usage. You can also perform analysis based on future growth, used historical usage data tracked by your cloud provider. It's scalable. You can increase or decrease the resources and services used based on the demand or workload at any given time. Cloud computing supports both vertical and horizontal scaling depending on your needs. Vertical scaling, also known as scaling up, is the process of adding resources to increase the power of an existing server. Some examples of vertical scalings are adding more CPUs or adding more memory. Horizontal scaling, also known as scaling out, is the process of adding more servers that function together as one unit. For example, you have more than one server processing incoming requests. Scaling can be done manually or automatically based on specific triggers such as CPU utilization or the number of requests and resources that can be allocated or deallocated in minutes. It's elastic. As your workload changes due to the spike or drop in the demand, a cloud computing system can compensate by automatically adding or removing resources. For example, imagine your website is featured in a news article leading to a spike in traffic overnight. Since the cloud is elastic, it automatically allocates more computing resources to handle the increased traffic. When the traffic begins to normalize, the cloud automatically deallocates the additional resources to minimize cost. Another example is if you are running an application used by employees, you can have the cloud automatically add resources for the peak operating hours during which most people access the application and remove the resources at the usual end of the day. It's current. When you use the cloud, you are able to focus on what matters, building and deploying applications. Cloud usage eliminates the burdens of maintaining software patches, hardware setup, upgrades, and other IT management tasks. All of these is automatically done for you to ensure you are using the latest and greatest tools to run your businesses. Additionally, the computer hardware is maintained and upgraded by the cloud provider. For example, if a disk fails, the disk will be replaced by the cloud provider. If a new hardware update becoming available, you don't have to go through the process of replacing your hardware. The cloud provider will ensure that the hardware updates are made available to you automatically. It's reliable. When you are running a business, you want to be confident your data is always going to be there. Cloud computing providers offer data backup, disaster recovery, and data replication services to make sure your data is always safe. In addition, redundancy is often built into cloud services architecture. So if one component fails, a backup component takes its place. This is referred to as a fault tolerance and it ensures that your customers are not impacted when a disaster occurs. It's global. Cloud providers have fully redundant data centers located in various regions all over the globe. This gives you a local presence close to your customers to give them the best response time possible no matter where in the world they are. You can replicate your services into multiple regions for redundancy and locality, or select a specific region to ensure you meet data residency and compliance laws for your customers. It's secure. Think about how you secure your data center. You have physical security. Who can access the building, who can operate the server racks, and so on. You also have digital security. Who can connect to your systems and data over the network. Cloud providers offer a broad set of policies, technologies, controls, and expert technical skills that can provide better security that most organizations can otherwise achieve. The result is strengthened security, which helps to protect data, applications, and infrastructure from potential threats. When it comes to physical security, threats to cloud infrastructure, cloud providers invest heavily in walls, cameras, gates, security personnel, and so on to protect physical assets. They also have strict procedures in place to ensure employees have access only to those resources that they have been authorized to manage. Let us talk about digital security. You want only authorized users to be able to log into virtual machines or storage systems running in the cloud. Cloud providers offer tools that help you mitigate security threats, and you must use these tools to protect the resources you use. In conclusion, cloud computing makes running a business easier. It's cost effective, scalable, elastic, current, reliable, and secure. This means you are able to spend more time on what matters and less time managing the underlying details. When selecting a cloud provider to host your solutions, you should understand how that provider can help you comply with regulations and standards. Some questions to ask about a potential provider include: how compliant is the cloud provider when it comes to handling sensitive data? How compliant are the services offered by the cloud provider? How can I deploy my own cloud based solutions to scenarios that have accreditation or compliance requirements? How terms are part of the privacy statements for the provider. Here is the list of some of the compliance offerings available. To find the more details about each one of these compliance offerings, please visit this link. In the past, companies needed to acquire physical premises and infrastructure to start their businesses. There was a substantial upfront cost in hardware and infrastructure to start or grow a business. Cloud computing provides services to customers without significant upfront cost or equipment setup time. These two approaches to investment are referred to as CapEx, capital expenditure, OPEX, operational expenditure. CapEx is the spending of money on physical infrastructure upfront and then deducting that expenses from your tax bill over time. CapEx is an upfront cost which has a value that reduces over time. OPEX is spending money on services or products now and being billed for them now. You can deduct these expenses from your tax bill in the same year. There is no upfront cost. You pay for a service or product as you use it. A typical on-premises data center includes costs such as server cost, storage cost, network cost, etc. Let's understand this in detail. Server cost. This area includes all hardware components and the cost of supporting them. When purchasing servers, make sure to design fault tolerance and redundancy, such as server clustering, redundant power supplies, and uninterruptible power supplies. When a server needs to be replaced, you need to pay for the computer. This can affect your immediate cash flow because you must pay for the server upfront. Storage cost. This area includes all storage hardware components and the cost of supporting it. Based on the application and level of fault tolerance, centralized storage can be expensive. For larger organizations, you can create tiers of storage where more expensive fault tolerant storage is used for critical applications and lower expenses storage is used for lower priority data. Network cost. Networking cost includes all on-premises hardware components including cabling, switches, access points and routers. This also includes wide area network, WAN and internet connections. Backup and archive cost. This is the cost to backup, copy and archive data. Options might include setting up a backup to or from the cloud. There is an upfront cost for the hardware and additional cost for backup maintenance and consumable like steps. Organization continuity and disaster recovery cost. Along with several fault tolerance and redundancy, you need to plan for how to recover for a disaster and continue operating. Your plan should consist of creating a disaster recovery site. It should also include backup generators. Most of these are upfront costs, especially if you build a disaster recovery site, but there is an additional ongoing cost for the infrastructure and its maintenance. Data center infrastructure cost. These are costs for construction and building equipments as well as future renovation and remodeling costs that may arise as demands grow. Additionally, these infrastructure incur operational expenses for electricity, floor space, cooling and building maintenance. Technical personnel. While not a capital expenditure, the personnel required to work on your infrastructure are specific to on-premise data centers. You will need the technical expertise and workforce to install, deploy and manage the systems in the data center and at the disaster recovery site. OPEX cloud computing cost. With cloud computing, many of the costs associated with an on-premises data center are shifted to the service provider. Instead of thinking about physical hardware and data center cost, cloud computing has a different set of costs. For accounting purposes, all those costs are operational expenses. Leasing software and customized features. Using a pay-per-use model requires actively managing your subscriptions to ensure users do not misuse the services and that provisional accounts are being utilized and not wasted. As soon as the provider provisions resources, billing starts. It is your responsibility to deprovision the resources when they are not in use so that you can minimize cost. Scaling charges based on usage demand instead of fixed hardware or capacity. Cloud computing can bill in various ways such as the number of users or CPU usage time. However, billing categories can also include allocated RAM, input-output operations per second and storage space. Plan for backup traffic and disaster recovery traffic to determine the bandwidth needed. Billing at the user or an organization level. The subscription pay-per-use model is a computing billing method that is designed for both organizations and users. The organizations or users is billed for the services used, typically on a recurring basis. You can scale, customize, and provision computing services, including software, storage, and development platforms. For example, when using a dedicated cloud service, you could pay based on server hardware and usage. Benefits of CapEx. With capital expenditures, you plan your expenses at the start of a project or budget period. Your costs are fixed, meaning you know exactly how much is being spent. This is appealing when you need to predict the expenses before a project starts due to a limited budget. Benefits of OPEX. Demand and growth can be unpredictable and can outpace expectations, which is a challenge for the CAPEX model as shown in the following graph. With the OPEX model, companies wanting to try a new product or service don't need to invest in equipment. Instead, they pay as much or as little for the infrastructure as required. OPEX is particularly appealing if the demand fluctuates or is unknown. Cloud services are often said to be agile. Cloud agility is the ability to rapidly change an IT infrastructure to adapt to the evolving needs of the businesses. For example, if your service peaks one month, you can scale to demand and pay a larger bill for the month. If the following month the demand drops, you can reduce the used resources and be charged less. This agility lets you manage your costs dynamically, optimizing spending as requirements change. A cloud deployment model defines where your data is stored and how your customers interact with it. How do they get it to? And where do the applications run? It also depends on how much of your own infrastructure you want or need to manage. In this video, we will discuss cloud deployment approaches. So let's get started. Once you decide to shift some of the applications into the cloud, next decision you have to make is how to deploy. There are three ways to deploy and integrate cloud services into your application's infrastructure and architecture: public, private, and hybrid cloud. Public cloud. This is the most common deployment model. In this case, you have no local hardware to manage or keep up to date. Everything runs on your cloud provider's hardware. In some cases, you can save additional cost by sharing computing resources with other cloud users. Businesses can use multiple public cloud providers of varying scale. Microsoft Azure is an example of a public cloud provider. Let's discuss the advantages of public cloud. High scalability or agility. You don't have to buy a new server in order to scale. Pay as you go pricing. You pay only for what you use, no capex cost. You are not responsible for maintenance or updates of the hardware. Minimal technical knowledge to set up and use. You can leverage the skills and expertise of the cloud provider to ensure workloads are secure, safe, and highly available. A common use case scenario is deploying a web application or blog site on hardware and resources that are owned by a cloud provider. Using a public cloud in this scenario allows cloud users to get their websites or blog up quickly and then focus on maintaining the site without having to worry about purchasing, managing, and maintaining the hardware on which it runs. Now let's discuss disadvantages. Not all scenarios fit the public cloud. Here are some disadvantages to think about. There may be specific security requirements that cannot be met by using public cloud. There may be government policies, industry standards, or legal requirements which public clouds cannot meet. You don't own the hardware or services and cannot manage them as you may want to. Unique business requirements such as having to maintain a legacy application might be hard to meet. Private cloud. In a private cloud, you create a cloud environment in your own data center and provide self-service access to compute resources to users in your organization. This offers a simulation of a public cloud to your users, but you remain completely responsible for the purchases and maintenance of the hardware and software services you provide. Let's discuss some of the advantages of private cloud. This approach has several advantages. You can ensure the configuration can support any scenario or legacy application. You have control and responsibility over security. Private clouds can meet strict security, compliance, or legal requirements. Let's see some of the disadvantages of private cloud. Some reasons teams move away from the private cloud are you have some initial capex cost and must purchase the hardware for startup and maintenance. Owning the equipment limits the agility. To scale, you must buy, install, and set up new hardware. Private clouds require IT skills and expertise that's hard to come by. A use case scenario for a private cloud would be when an organization has data that cannot be put in the public cloud, perhaps for legal reasons. An example scenario may be where government policy requires specific data to be kept in country or privately. A private cloud can provide cloud responsibility to external customers as well or to specific internal departments such as accounting or human resources. A hybrid cloud combines public and private clouds, allowing you to run your applications in the most appropriate location. For example, you could host a website in the public cloud and link it to a highly secure database hosted in your private cloud or on-premise data center. This is helpful when you have some things that cannot be put in the cloud, maybe for legal reasons. For example, you may have some specific pieces of data that cannot be exposed publicly, such as medical data, which needs to be held in your private data center. Another example is one or more applications that run on old hardware that can be updated. In this case, you can keep the old system running locally and connect it to the public cloud for authorization for storage. Now let's see some of the advantages of hybrid cloud. You can keep any systems running and accessible that use out-of-date hardware or an out-of-date operating system. You have flexibility with what you run locally versus in the cloud. You can take advantage of economies of scale from public cloud providers for services and resources where it's cheaper and then supplement with your own equipment when it's not. You can use your own equipment to meet security, compliance, or legacy scenarios where you need to completely control the environment. Disadvantages of hybrid cloud. Some concerns you will need to watch out for are it can be more expensive than selecting one deployment model since it involves some capex cost upfront. It can be more complicated to set up and manage. In conclusion, cloud computing is flexible and gives you the ability to choose how you want to deploy it. The cloud deployment model you choose depends on your budget and on your security, scalability, and maintenance needs. When talking about cloud computing, there are three major categories. It's important to understand these because they are used in conversation, documentation, and training. So let's explore the three categories of cloud computing: infrastructure as a service, platform as a service, and software as a service. Infrastructure as a service is the most flexible category of cloud services. It aims to give you the most control over the provided hardware that runs your application, IT infrastructure, servers and virtual machines, storage and operating systems. Instead of buying hardware with IaaS, you rent it. It's an instant computing infrastructure provisioned and managed over the internet. Make a note of one thing, that when using IaaS, ensuring that a service is up and running is a shared responsibility. The cloud provider is responsible for ensuring the cloud infrastructure is functioning correctly. The cloud customer is responsible for ensuring the service they are using is configured correctly and is up to date and is available to their customers. This is referred to as the shared responsibility model. Infrastructure as a service is commonly used in some scenarios. Migrating workloads. Typically, infrastructure as a service facilities are managed in a similar way as on-premises infrastructure and provide an easy migration path for moving existing applications to the cloud. Test and development. Teams can quickly set up and dismantle test and development environments, bringing new applications to market faster. Infrastructure as a service makes scaling development and testing environments fast and economical. Storage, backup and recovery. Organizations avoid the capital outlay and complexity of storage management, which typically requires skilled staff to manage data and meet legal and compliance requirements. IaaS is useful for managing unpredictable demand and steadily growing storage needs. Infrastructure as a service can also simplify the planning and management of backup and recovery options. Platform as a service provides an environment for building, testing, and deploying software applications. The goal of PaaS is to help you create an application quickly without managing the underlying infrastructure. For example, when deploying a web application using PaaS, you don't have to install an operating system, web server, or even system updates. PaaS is a complete development and deployment environment in the cloud with resources that enable organizations to deliver everything from simple cloud-based application to sophisticated cloud-enabled enterprise applications. Resources are purchased from a cloud service provider on a pay-as-you-go basis and accessed over a secure internet connection. PaaS is commonly used in some scenarios. Development framework. PaaS provides a framework that developers can build upon to develop a customized cloud-based applications. Just like Microsoft Excel Micro, PaaS lets developers create applications using built-in software components. Cloud features such as scalability, high availability, and multi-tenant capability are included, reducing the amount of coding that developers must do. Analytics or business intelligence. Tools provided as a service with PaaS allow organizations to analyze and mine their data. They can find insights and patterns and predict outcomes to improve business decisions such as forecasting, product design, and investment returns. Software as a service is a software that is centrally hosted and managed for the end customer. It is usually based on an architecture where one version of the application is used for all customers and licensed through a monthly or annual subscription. Office 365, Skype, and Dynamics CRM Online are perfect examples of SaaS software. Let's see cost and ownership differences of these three infrastructures. Upfront cost. In infrastructure as a service, there are no upfront cost. Users pay only for what they consume. The same way, in PaaS, there are no upfront cost. Users pay only for what they consume. In SaaS, users have no upfront cost. They pay a subscription, typically on a monthly or annual basis. User ownership. In infrastructure as a service, the user is responsible for the purchase, installation, configuration, and management of their own software, operating systems, middleware, and applications. In PaaS, the user is responsible for the development of their own applications. However, they are not responsible for managing the server or infrastructure. This allows the users to focus on the application or workload they want to run. In SaaS, users just use the application software. They are not responsible for any maintenance or management of that software. Cloud provider ownership. Infrastructure as a service. In infrastructure as a service, the cloud provider is responsible for ensuring that the underlying cloud infrastructure, such as virtual machines, storage, and networking, is available for the user. In platform as a service, the cloud provider is responsible for operating system management, network, and service configuration. Cloud providers are typically responsible for everything apart from the application that a user wants to run. They provide a complete managed platform on which to run the application. In software as a service, the cloud provider is responsible for the provision, management, and maintenance of the application software. Management responsibilities. One thing to understand is that these categories are layered on the top of each other. For example, PaaS adds a layer on top of IaaS by providing a level of abstraction. The abstraction has the benefit of hiding the details that you may not care about so that you can get to coding quicker. However, one aspect of the abstraction is that you have less control over the underlying hardware. The illustration shows a list of resources that you manage and that your service provider manages in each cloud service category. Infrastructure as a service requires the most user management of all the cloud services. The user is responsible for managing the operating systems, data, and applications. Platform as a service requires less user management. The cloud provider manages the operating systems and the user is responsible for the applications and data they run and store. Software as a service requires the least amount of management. The cloud provider is responsible for managing everything and the end user just uses the software. Combine cloud services to fit your needs. Infrastructure as a service, platform as a service, and software as a service each contain different levels of managed services. You may easily use a combination of these type of infrastructure. You could use Office 365 on your company's computers, SaaS, and in Azure. You could host your virtual machines, infrastructure as a service, and use Azure SQL database platform as a service to store your data. With the cloud's flexibility, you can use any combination that provides you with the maximum result. In this module, you have learned about cloud computing, what it is and what its key characteristics are. Here are some of the things you covered. Different types of cloud models that are available and the consideration of using those different models. Some of the key terms and concepts such as high availability, agility, elasticity, fault tolerance, and capex versus opex. The different cloud services available, the benefits of using the different types, and the management responsibilities under each services type, cloud models such as public, private, and hybrid, and what the key characteristics of each model are, the different types of cloud service available, IaaS, PaaS, and SaaS, what the key characteristics of each service, and when you would choose one over the other. This is module 2. In this module, you will learn what Microsoft Azure is and how it relates to cloud computing, how to deploy a website using Azure App Services, learn how to scale up your website to give you more compute power, how to use Azure Cloud Shell to interact with your website. You have heard buzzword about the cloud scale, elasticity, microservices. Perhaps you have seen other companies be successful with the cloud and wondered how it could help you meet your business challenges or even grow your career. Did you know that more than 90% of Fortune 500 companies run on Microsoft Cloud? The cloud helps power your everyday life and it's often present in ways you don't even realize. In this new connected world, we believe technology creates opportunity. To keep up with today's ever-changing digital world, understanding cloud technology can help align your career to this exciting revolution. In less time than it takes to eat lunch, you will create and configure your first website on Azure, a foundational building block of everything from digital transformation to the next big startup. Azure is Microsoft's cloud computing platform. Azure is a continually expanding set of cloud services that help your organization meet your current and future business challenges. Azure gives you the freedom to build, manage, and deploy applications on a massive global network using your favorite tools and frameworks. If you have used Azure, you are familiar with the services it provides to the developers and IT administrators to build, deploy, and manage applications. So whether you are already a pro or you are just getting started, let's take a quick look at what happens behind the scenes. Let's understand how does Azure work. Azure uses a technology known as virtualization. Virtualization separates the tight coupling between computer's hardware and its operating system using an abstraction layer called hypervisor. And hypervisor emulates all the functions of a computer and its CPU and a virtual machine. It can run multiple personal machines at the same time, optimize the capacity of abstracted hardware, and use personal machine can run any compatible operating system such as Windows or Linux. So Azure takes this virtualization technology and repeats it on a massive scale in Microsoft data centers throughout the world. Each data center has many racks built with servers, and each server includes a hypervisor to run multiple virtual machines, and network switch provides connectivity throughout the servers, and each server in each rack runs a special piece of software called a fiber controller. Each fiber controller is connected to another piece of software known as orchestrator. So the orchestrator is responsible for managing everything that happens in Azure, including responding to user requests. User makes requests using orchestrator's web API. The web API can be called by many tools including the user interface, the user portal. So when a user makes a request to create a virtual machine, the orchestrator packages everything that it's needed, takes the best server and rack, and then sends the package and request to the fabric controller. So once the fabric controller has created the virtual machine, the user can connect to it. Azure makes it easy for developer and IT administrators to be agile when they build, deploy, and manage their applications and services. In fact, building a virtual machine is just the beginning with Azure's ever-expanding cloud services to help you meet your business challenges. It gives you the freedom to build, manage, and deploy applications on a massive global network using your favorite tools and frameworks. Why should I move to the cloud? The cloud helps you move faster and innovate in ways that were once nearly impossible. In our ever-changing digital world, two trends emerges. Teams are delivering new features to their users at record speed. End users expect an increasingly rich and immersive experience with their devices and software. Software releases were once scheduled in terms of months or even years. Today, teams are releasing features in smaller batches. Releases are now often scheduled in terms of days or weeks. Some teams even deliver software updates continuously, sometimes with multiple releases within the same day. Think of all the ways you interact with devices that you couldn't do just a few years ago. Many devices can recognize your face and respond to voice commands. Augmented reality changes the way you interact with the physical world. Household appliances are even beginning to act intelligently. These technologies are just a few examples, many of which are powered by the cloud. To power your services and deliver innovative and novel user experience more quickly, the cloud provides on-demand access to a nearly limitless pool of raw compute, storage, and networking components, speak recognition, and other cognitive services that help make your application stand out from the crowd. Analytic services that enables you to make sense of telemetry data coming back from your software and devices. Let's see how Azure fits in with cloud computing. What can I do on Azure? Azure provides over 100 services that enable you to do everything from running your existing applications on virtual machines to exploring new software paradigms such as intelligent bots and mixed reality. Many teams start exploring the cloud by moving their existing applications to virtual machines that run in Azure. While migrating your existing applications to virtual machines is a good start, the cloud is more than just a different place to run your virtual machines. For example, Azure provides AI or artificial intelligence and machine learning services that can naturally communicate with your users through vision, hearing, and speech. It also provides storage solutions that dynamically grow to accommodate massive amount of data. Azure services enable solutions that are not feasible without the power of the cloud. Azure can help you tackle tough business challenges. You bring your requirements, creativity, and favorite software development tools. Azure brings a massive global infrastructure that's always available for you to build your applications on. Let's take a quick tour of the high level services Azure offers. Here's a big picture view of the available services and features in Azure. Let's take a closer look at the most commonly used categories. Those are compute, networking, storage, mobile, databases, web, Internet of Things, big data, artificial intelligence, and DevOps. Let's discuss all these in more detail. Compute services are often one of the primary reasons why companies move to the Azure platform. Azure provides a range of options for hosting applications and services. Here are some examples of compute services in Azure. Azure Virtual Machines can be used to create virtual machines which will have Windows or Linux virtual machines hosted in Azure. Azure Virtual Machine scale sets can be used for scaling of Windows or Linux virtual machines hosted in Azure. Azure Kubernetes Service can be used to enable management of a cluster of virtual machines that run containerized services. Azure Service Fabric is a service which is a distributed systems platform and it runs in Azure or on premises. Azure Batch is a service which is used to manage service for parallel and high performance computing applications. Azure Container Instances run containerized apps on Azure without provisioning servers or virtual machines. Azure functions an event-driven serverless compute service. In this video, I'm going to show you how you can create your new free Azure trial account. So let's get started. First of all, go to the Chrome browser or Microsoft Edge or Internet Explorer, any browser, whichever you have on your machine. Then in the address bar, enter Microsoft Azure URL, that is azure.microsoft.com. Hit enter. It will open this home page of Microsoft Azure. Just click on sign in at the top corner, right corner. Then click on next. In the sign in window, you need to enter your email address. Just click on this create one link. After clicking on that, you will find this type of window. Just enter your email address over there. Let me enter my email address. Okay. Now click on the next. Here you will get this create a password window. You need to enter your valid password in order to open your account. Just click on next after entering a valid password. After clicking on next button, you will get verify email. You need to check your email. In the inbox, you will receive one code and copy that code from your inbox and type it in here and then click on next. Now here is a little fun. Let me correct this or let me solve this. Voila, your account has been created. So this is the Microsoft Azure homepage. Here you need to create your free account or you need to start your free trial. Just click on this free trial account. It will redirect you to your profile page. You need to enter all the details over here like your country, first name, last name, email address, phone, organization and PAN ID. After entering all those details, click on next. The next button will not be enabled unless and until you fill all the details. So let me enter some details over here. Guys, I'm not going to create a new account over here because I already have one. I'm just showing this to you for your understanding. Now in here, identify verification by phone, you need to enter your valid phone number. Once you enter your valid phone number, click on text me or call me button so that you will receive the code over here, and note down that code and enter that code in the text box. Once you enter that code, it will enable the third step, that is identify verification by card. Here you need your credit card so that it will verify your identity against your credit card. Guys, credit card is mandatory to open your Azure free account. Don't worry, it is not going to charge you anything. It will just debit rupees 2 or some minor amount, and it will immediately credit that amount back to your account. So don't worry, just follow these steps after entering all the credit card details, and then in the last agreement step, you just need to click on agree or agree to terms and conditions of Azure portal, and then follow the steps, and it will create your Azure portal for you. So you will get your free account over here, and then you can just browse your Azure portal. After completing all the steps, you will see this kind of Microsoft Azure portal homepage. This is your account created in Microsoft Azure, and now you can start working on this. In the next session, we will learn how to create a website and host a website in Azure portal. So let's move ahead to the next session. We are going to create a WordPress website hosted in Azure. You need to have Azure portal account to perform this task, or there is one more option. If you don't have account open, you can activate Azure Sandbox for practice purpose. It's a very good choice for the people who are learning Azure and want to practice some task. Then the sandbox will be open for certain time of period for around 3 to 4 hours. You can check that in the Microsoft Azure documentation and follow the steps that I am showing here in this video so that you will get a feel of Azure portal and its working. So let's get your first website up and running. Once you arrive on this Azure portal page, you just click on this create a resource link. It will redirect you to a new resource page, and then in the search box type WordPress. You will see a list of options over there. Select WordPress option and hit enter. Click on create. It will redirect you to this page. Here you need to enter all these details: application name, resource name. Give some application name like a blog for me or some other name, whatever you like. You should give a unique name which is not already taken by some other applications. Otherwise, it will give you an error. Just try to give some unique name over here. Then go to the resource group. In the resource group list, you will find a already created resource group. If you are using a sandbox, and if you are not using a sandbox and you are working on your own account, Azure portal account, you need to create a new resource group and then select that resource group from the list. Then move on to the next step, that is database provider. Select MySQL in app from the list. Then head over to app service plan. Click on the create one, and then it will redirect you to the new app service plan page. Here you need to enter all these details: app service plan name, and then location and pricing tier. Give some unique name in the app service plan text box. Leave the location as it is and click on pricing tier. After clicking on pricing tier, you will see a specification picker page. In the specification picker page, you will find three different options: dev or test environment, production environment, and isolation environment. You need to select the first one. Under dev and test environment, select the first option, F1. and then click on apply. Click on OK, and then you will see the option application service plan selected as the new application plan which you have just created with the free plan. And then now click create. After clicking on create button, it's going to take some time to create all the resources for you. You can check the notification section at the top right corner. Once it gets created, you will see a notification that the resource has been created successfully. So let's wait for some time. Let's check if the resource is created or not. Go to the notification area. You will find deployment succeeded. Click on the go to resource, and then in the overview section, you will find all the details about that WordPress website. Just copy the URL at the top right corner of the overview section. Yeah, here, and copy that and paste it in the new browser. Hit enter in the browser, and you will be able to browse that website. It's going to take some time because we are browsing it for the first time, so let's wait. You can also make use of the browse option over there at the top section of your overview page button, and then it will redirect you to the new page. It's going to take some time, so let's wait for the page to arrive. Yes, it has arrived. Now click on English option and continue. You will see the welcome page. Give some title to your WordPress site. Provide username as per your choice, and then type password. You can use strong password as automated password as well. Give some password as per your choice, and then give email address and click on install WordPress. Now it is processing your WordPress site for you, and it's going to take some time. Just let's wait for some time. Yes, here the WordPress has been created for us with the username and password. Click on login. Here you need to provide the username and password, whatever you have given in the previous step. Provide the same your ID and password and click on login. Once you log in, you will be able to see all the details about your WordPress website. Here you can customize your site. You can change how your WordPress site is going to look like. You can add different controls, different text, and themes and all. You can explore this thing for you, and you will be able to change and view colors and all those things of your WordPress website. Let's check how our WordPress website is looking as per the default settings. Go to our overview page and copy that URL and paste it in the browser. You will be able to see your first website, WordPress website created as per the default configuration or as per the default setting. Go to the dashboard. Just click on the dashboard option over here, and then click on the resource you just created, and here all the information about your WordPress website is displayed over here, like how many requests has been sent, how many responses has been received by the site, and how much data is passed. So that graph is displayed over here. You can just view all these statistics over here. And there is one more option to scale up your site. If suppose you want to upgrade your website and all the resources, in that case you can just click on the scale up option, and you can upgrade it as per your requirement from development environment to production or any other settings about your scaling of website. So guys, that's all about the new website creation. I hope you enjoyed this exercise and you learned something new over here. Now let's move ahead to the next practical session. In this exercise, you are going to learn how you can access an app service using Azure Cloud Shell. Before moving ahead, let's try to understand what is Azure Cloud Shell. Azure Cloud Shell is a browser-based command line interface, and for managing developing Azure resources, think of Cloud Shell as an interactive console that you can run in the cloud. Cloud Shell provides you two experiences to choose from, Bash and PowerShell. Both include access to the Azure command line interfaces called Azure CLI and Azure PowerShell. You can use any Azure management interface, including the Azure portal, Azure CLI, and Azure PowerShell to manage your Azure resources. For learning purposes, you will use the Azure CLI to start and stop the WordPress site we created earlier. Suppose you have several websites deployed and want to stop each of these websites without accessing each app service individually using the portal. This effort is an easy task that you can convert into a script using PowerShell or Cloud Shell and Azure CLI. In this exercise, you will use the Cloud Shell windows shown side by side with the exercise instructions. So let's get started. Let me flip to my Azure portal. Go to the blue title bar at the top of your screen. There you can find the first icon on the right hand side of that blue bar and click on that icon. You can see a Cloud Shell has been opened for you at the bottom of your screen. That is a black screen. In the command line interface, we will use the AZ account list command. By default, the command returns a JSON string. However, we will format the output as a table to make the information easier to work with. So let's run this command and see what output we get. As we are working on the sandbox subscription, it is returning us the account of that sandbox. Let's move ahead to the next command. Recall that we used a pre-created resource group called Sandbox Resource Group when we created our website. However, if you ever need to list all the resources groups in that subscription, then you will need to run the AZ group list command in this command line interface. So let's try this command. You can see it has listed the resource group which has been created by the sandbox. Next, we will list all the resources in the sandbox resource group name using the AZ resource list command. The command will return a list of resources. By specifying hyphen hyphen resource hyphen type, we can filter the result to include only the resource information related to website. Let me type resource hyphen group and then copy the resource group from the previous command output and paste it here. Right click and paste the resource group. You can copy it from the result set which has been written by your previous command and paste it here and then hit enter. You can see the results. It has shown all the websites, all the information about your website which has been created in that resource group. You can see like all the information like name of the website and then type, resource group name, every information when the website has been changed, when it has been created, the date and time, everything has been included in this output. The name of the resource group, this is name and the change time, when it has been changed, location of your website, plan. Each curly brackets will have a new website name. So as many websites you have, those many curly brackets will be included in this output. So let's move ahead to the next command. We will use the AZ web app stop command to stop the web application running in our app service. Replace web app name with the name of your web app you copied. Then run this command to stop your web app. Hyphen hyphen resource hyphen group. Provide the resource group name. Copy it from the result set and paste it in here. Let's hit enter. Oops, there is some error. I think there is some mistake. Let me copy the same command. Oh yeah, I missed the name. So name, provide the name of your website and then hit enter. Now this website has been stopped. Let's refresh the page of your website. It's going to take some time to get the changes into effect. See, the error 403 has occurred because we have stopped the web app. So let's move ahead to the next command and use AZ web app start to start the web service, to start the web app, and use the same command and use web app start. Let's copy the resource group name, paste it here, and provide the name your blog. Let's hit enter. Let's see if the web app is working or not. Refresh the page, it should work. It's going to take some time to make the changes. It should work because we have started the service through the command line. Yeah, so the website is started. Guys, make a note of one thing, that the sandbox automatically cleans up your resources when you are finished. But when you are using your own subscription, it's a good idea at the end of a project to identify whether you still need the resources you created. Resources left running can cost you money. You can delete resources individually or delete the resource group to delete the entire set of resources. Here you have completed your third exercise, and with that your course as well, Cloud Core Concepts and Azure Fundamentals.